The lone losers from the NFC East on Sunday. I want to take a look now at the NFC least standings. Certainly a fluid situation, kind of like Stephen's A list. Washington is in first, followed by the Giants, Eagles, and Cowboys. This division is always up for grabs. Each year it seems to be there's a new winner. Stephen A, you're up. Who do you think wins it?
I'm going to roll with Washington in this one. Obviously, I'm allergic to picking the Dallas Cowboys. We all know that. Not trying to pick them. By the way, I got my friend Mark Turner. There was an APB out for him, y'all. We couldn't find him for several weeks, being the coward, the weak, pathetic, disgusting, nauseating Cowboy fan that he is. He was nowhere to be found whatsoever, but they win a game, and then all of a sudden my phone is blowing up about how Dallas is only one game out of first place in the NFC least. This is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about when I tell you I despise Dallas Cowboy fans. That's why I haven't answered his calls. I just refuse to talk to him. Having said all of that, it comes down to the Giants and Washington to me. And when you look at Washington, it's just basically looking at the schedule, guys. The Washington did lose to the Giants twice this year, Max. I get that. So they've got to avoid a tiebreak at all costs. But I see Washington winning 2 of their next 3 games. I expect them to lose to Seattle, but I expect them to beat Carolina and ultimately, I think, I think it's the Philadelphia Eagles, if I remember correctly. And so when I look at it from that perspective, I say, excuse me, I think this is something that they can do, all right? Whereas when I look at the New York Giants, you got Cleveland and Baltimore the next 2 games. I don't see you winning either of those games with both of them playing for their playoff lives. They're both trying to get in. There's an elevated level of urgency. One of them is going to lose to the other tonight, which is going to make their games in the last 3 weeks that much more important. And so because of that, I just think the odds are stacked against the New York Giants. That combined with the way Danny Dimes looked yesterday, the fact that they struggle offensively. I love the job that Joe Judge is doing. Again, they play hard. I see improvement every single week. I got nothing but respect for the job that this man has done. But I think that right now, this is not for them. Saquon Barkley is obviously out. Daniel Jones was hurt. He came back, didn't look that great to me. I just look at Washington, despite the fact that you had one quarterback and Alex Smith throwing for 57 yards and another Dwayne Haskins throwing for only 51 yards. That's 108 yards combined at the quarterback position, which is basically nothing. Despite all of that, their defense is elite. And I think that's going to propel them to 2 victories in the next 3 weeks. That'll leave them at 8-8. And because of it, they'll win the division crown.
You're pointing out the reasons that Washington is correctly favored. If you want to just play the odds, they have an extra win. There aren't a lot of games to go. Washington has, at least on paper, an easier schedule, so they should win the division. So I have to admit that this is on my heart more than in my head, right? I think the Giants are going to win the division. I think that they also, they are capable of playing elite defense, even if we didn't see it yesterday. Maybe a bad matchup for them. And their schedule, while you talk about the Browns and the Ravens, they're good teams. I don't look at the Browns or the Ravens as being unwinnable games for the Giants. And when you look at the schedule for the Washington team, obviously Seattle, they'll be underdogs. Also a winnable game for them, but they're going to be underdogs. But you have to think of the Eagles differently now, Stephen A. It's no longer Carson Wentz starting. They just beat the Saints. They're capable of beating Washington. If they're capable of beating the Saints, especially in NFC rivalry games are different. So I wouldn't just automatically say, well, yeah, the Giants are going to finish with a lesser record. If the Giants can make up that one game over the next 3, as you said, they have the tiebreaker. They beat Washington twice this year. They'll go to the playoffs. So now let's look at why that might be. Why are the Giants maybe a little better than they showed yesterday? Well, and maybe Washington a little worse. Alex Smith hurt his calf. It was a calf strain. He had to come out of the game, right? So what's troublesome is that's the same leg that he had that terrible injury on. That's not just like a gimme, oh yeah, sure, he'll be back and fine. And Alex Smith has played well, but now not so sure. And if it's Dwayne Haskins under center, he really wasn't good. The stats make him look a little better than he was yesterday. Now let's flip it around to the Giants. Daniel Jones looked terrible yesterday. He looked like he regressed, but Stephen A., he clearly couldn't move. He has a hamstring injury. He was gung-ho to get back. I think he probably came back a week too early. Colt McCoy was good enough to win, right? And as a result, he was stationary. And once he's stationary, that's a huge part of his game. He's a running quarterback. Daniel Jones is very fast. He's a running quarterback. You take that part away from his game, it's not the same player. So otherwise, Daniel Jones this year has been about middle of the pack, maybe a tick below average starter. Right now, he's 18th in QBR, including yesterday's debacle, right? So when you think about what they're going to have under center going forward, Jones, should he be a week healthier, should get back to being about an NFL average starter. Alex Smith's injury, on the other hand, is troubling. Dwayne Haskins isn't ready, and I wouldn't be so quick to say the schedule eliminates the Giants. I think the Giants have a good chance to win the NFC East.
I disagree with that. I really, really do, because I look at this schedule and I'm saying, nah, I can't see it happening. The fact that you've got Cleveland and Baltimore back-to-back over the next 2 weeks with such a level of urgency attached to them, I can't see that happening. Just can't see it. Can't see it.
Well, all you got to do is win one of those, right? And then you got to win the last game of the season against the Cowboys. That's a winnable game. It's a losable game, too, because none of these teams are great, but the Giants are at least trending in the right direction until yesterday. And as I said, there are reasons that they regressed yesterday. If Jones gets healthy, I agree, they're not going to beat the Ravens and the Browns, but I think they can win one of those games. And in the meantime, Washington can lose one of its next 2 games, probably to Seattle and not Carolina. Okay, so once that happens, it comes down to the last game of the season. If that happens, can the Giants beat the Cowboys? And can the Eagles beat Washington? I think with Jalen Hurts playing, particularly against Haskins, if it's Haskins, the answer is the Eagles can beat Washington, and the Giants can certainly beat the Cowboys, tying them at the end of the season with the Giants winning the tiebreaker.
Yeah. I think the conversation is null and void because you're asking Danny Dimes, without Saquon Barkley, a legit number 1 receiver, et cetera, to go against Cleveland and Baltimore and beat them in back-to-back weeks. Obviously, the Dallas Cowboys got 3 games left in their schedule. San Francisco, Philadelphia, the Giants, they could finish at 7-9. Essentially, what you need to do is ensure that the Washington football team is going to fall to 7-9, that they're going to lose 2 of their next 3 games, and then everybody finish at 7-9, or at least 2 of the teams finish at 7-9 with the Giants getting the tiebreaker. And in order for that to happen, that means that y'all would have to beat Baltimore or Cleveland. It ain't happening. I think that's a pipe dream.
Giants got a defense, though. Giants got a defense. Have defense.
According to
travel.
FBI, Washington will win the division. So we shall see, gentlemen, when we come back here on First Take. It may come down to the GOATs in the NFC. I'm talking Brady and Rodgers. Which one will be the more important player when we get down the stretch?
I don't want to hear from this dude.
Wait, ding, ding, ding. Hang in. I got to get in.